Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished marketer and advertising professional, Mr. Rajeev Aggarwal from Singapore. Rajeev, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you calling me and I feel humbled.
Thank you. Rajeev is the Director Global Accounts for Kantar, APAC, which is a data analytics and brand consulting company. He's a brand growth consultant and he's a YouTube channel host. So Rajeev, let's first talk about branding and analytics. With so much experience with iconic FMCG brands, what goes into building a successful brand?
I think, Ashutosh, the recipe is pretty much simple as, as you talk about what goes into building a successful business, because when you're building a brand, you're essentially building a business, what distinct advantage you have over others, and how you execute that. So, whether you're able to, how meaningful you are to the consumers, both in terms of your emotional as well as rational benefits you communicate to them, whether you're different from other brands. These are a couple of things which go into, building blocks of the successful brands. You start with something different proposition, but then how you execute it is also equally important, because what happens is that execution part gets, missed out, and a lot of emphasis goes into strategy, which is both are important, but, a right mix of strategy and execution is very important.
Okay.
For successful brands. Now, you said iconic brands. So there's a difference between successful and iconic brands, Ashutosh here. So you would see that there are so many brands which are successful,
Correct,
but not all of them are iconic. And I think that is a very important differentiation. So in my view, my humble view, successful brands, they will offer what the consumers want. Yeah, they will offer what the consumers need.
correct.
But what I have noticed, and would be good to hear your perspective as well, Ashutosh, you are a very seasoned marketer yourself, that that iconic brands offer something which consumers need, but they don't know yet. So for example, if I take the iconic brand of Apple, and they came out with the iPhone, right? And nobody kind of thought that iPhone was needed, but when it came, it sold like hotcakes. So obviously there was a genius in Steve Jobs who got the pulse of the market.
Correct.
Similarly, if you see other FMCG brands like Dove, which redefined the beauty, people define beauty in a certain sense,
Sure.
but Dove got popular or iconic simply because it redefined the space to what the inner desire of the consumers was, because everybody is fed up and tired of getting beauty defined in a certain way. We see the beauty in a certain way, but we don't live like that. The life is different. Everybody is not that beautiful. But I've caught that and brought it to life.
Well said.
So yes, yeah.
Well said. So, I'm glad you picked up the word iconic so well, so quickly. Just goes on to confirm what I said, that you are a branding guru. But my next question is really a segue from that brands are living beings. How can they stay relevant for a long period of time? What do iconic brands do differently that they just stay on and on and on?
Yeah. No, I think, look, you're right. I think this comparison with the human beings is pretty, a lot of people do it, Ashutosh. And I think it all comes from the life cycle, because human has a life cycle, brands have a life cycle. But you must see one thing which I see difference between brands and humans is, for a human like me, for example, whatever I do right in my life, there would be a time when my eyesight will go, when my bones will be different from what it is, whatever I do. I think brands can avoid that issue. So I do see a parallel between these two, but I think it's a parallel which people do because it's easy. So let me give you an example. How brands can stay relevant. So, for example, a brand A right now is focusing on millennials, let's say 18 to 35 age group, right? Brand A. Now, the values of millennials, and Ashutosh, you are a father, and so am I. the value of centennials, millennials these days is different from what you grew up on and what I grew up on. Yeah. And now when my son or my daughter, they come to my age, and hopefully if they have children, their children will think about life differently. So there is an evolution stage for millennials. There is an evolution stage for centennials. There is an evolution stage for people with white hair. The retirements will look different. The youth will look different.
Correct.
So that is an important thing for brands to understand, that there is a role which is changing of everybody and how they project themselves in the changing role. For example, if a brand A is focusing on millennials today and goes by their values, but does not reinvent itself for the next generation of millennials, then it will become the brand for those millennials who have become old now. So the brand which was young or youthful or middle-aged has become old now because it has not lived up to the expectations.
Very well said. Very well said. Yeah. So, moving on, my question to you, and again, you must have worked with so many different brand managers. I'm going to be 65 soon. So, I've lived and worked with brands, so thank you, but for over 4 decades. But the role of the brand manager has been evolving. So I'd love to get your perspective and as to how the role has changed and evolved over the years, whether it's the millennials or the Gen Zs, or as you said, the centennials. How have they started to evolve?
So what I have seen, Ashutosh, is that you're right. I think the role has changed in certain sense, and in certain sense it hasn't changed. Now, where it hasn't changed, again, it's my perspective, and Ashutosh, you're talking to other learned people as well. So where it hasn't changed, that you got to be a constant learner. So for example, Ashutosh, you were a marketer as well earlier, right? And you got to learn as well with time. So earlier, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, the AI, artificial intelligence, or data-driven marketing, precision marketing, these skills were not there. Correct. Now, these are important, right? And they become very important part of your portfolio. So you got to learn that. So recent brand managers got to be knowing that. They got to be knowing the social listening. So earlier in research world, you go do the surveys, and you ask consumer, but now you can listen to them. There's a social listening. So your platform knowledge has to go up. So these are hard skills, AI, analytics, you got to know this, and you got to know the implications of this.
Correct.
On the softer side, Ashutosh, is very important, and the way the world is evolving is that it's not that hierarchical world, it's not like A to B to C to D. Correct. There are a lot of stakeholders in parallel, and you're working across. So there's the ecosystem has changed. So within that ecosystem, what I am noticing is that agility has become very important. Okay. Collaboration has become very important. So the role of brand manager was to build iconic brands, great brands, even then earlier in your time, Ashutosh, and it remains even now. But the recipe has kind of changed in terms of both hard skills as well as the soft skills.
Very well said. Very well said. And that's an interesting segue to my next question, which is that how has the digital ecosystem started to change the role of the brand manager, and what is social media doing to the brand manager's entire strategy?
Yeah, I think, look, it's a fair question, Ashutosh. What's happening? Let me give you an example of how the digital has changed. Let's say Facebook, for example. Yeah. Now, earlier we were living in the world, a world of TV where you would have a 1 minute commercial or 45 seconds commercial.
Correct.
Now, what the Facebooks or the YouTubes of the world have done they have changed the segmentation model also. So earlier, I remember 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I would go to the presentations and talk about 4 or 5 segments. And the marketer sitting opposite me will make decision based on 5 segments. Now that is not relevant anymore. There are 500 segments, So there is earlier there will be a housewife with X amount of attribute segment. But now within that housewife, you have so many segments. Correct. So the thing has become hyper segmentation. So the digital has changed the way you can approach the consumer. Now, good and bad. Good is that it's great that you can really go into your marketing. You can go into precision marketing. Then if you see in the advertising model has changed, earlier you had 30 seconds or 45 seconds. Now if you see that YouTube or Facebook, you have a 6 second, you have 4 second, you have 8 second. So I think there are a lot more choices, but whether they're being used to the best of the abilities and best of the consumer's advantage, that's debatable. Consumers were tired of advertising earlier. They're tired of advertising even now. But the thing has become far more granular and consumer centric, I would say, than it was earlier. And brands are under more pressure now.
Absolutely. So, when you talk about the duration of advertising, which is changing completely, David Ogilvy had said famously that only 50% of advertising works. Nobody knows which half, right? And therefore, you've got to keep on investing. In a digital world, how does one determine that whether it's a 4 second or a 6 second or an 8 second or a 30 second, how does one determine or what kind of analytics are available to understand whether the advertising is working?
So, there are specialist tools available, Ashutosh, to measure the effectiveness of advertisement. So if you have a 30-second advertisement, if you have 15-second advertisement, if you have 5-second advertisement, there are tools which can help you measure the effectiveness. So there are approaches. There are one of the approaches, A/B measurement. You show two separate ads and then see what this ad is leading to, what is the impact of this particular ad, and you can compare. So there are enough tools available to see whether a 5 second, 30 seconds, 25 second is important, is adding value or no. But the critical part is the length. The marketers or the brand people like me, we got to be very sure that what do we want to accomplish. What is happening that sometimes we want to air a 5-second or 6-second ad, and we want to accomplish what a 30-second ad will do. We air 30-second ad and we want to accomplish what 6-second ad will do. So each ad duration has a purpose, because what a longer duration ad can do, a shorter cannot do, and vice versa. So I think there are enough tools available with the advertising agencies or with the market research agencies, with marketers to measure it. But what I'm seeing is where the problem happens is not knowing what we want to achieve.
Correct. Well said. So my next question to you is on research. How important is continuous research? Again, research has evolved quite significantly from when I was in college, and I used to get 10 rupees to get one questionnaire of Indian Market Research Bureau filled up. And those are literally feet on the ground kind of researches, to what is happening today. I mean, every single keystroke can be now mapped. How important is this continuous and ongoing research for brands to stay relevant?
Look, I mean, if you're asking a professional, obviously I would say it's very important, Ashutosh.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it affects my business.
But I'd like to get your perspective.
But even objectively speaking, Ashutosh, I think it makes a huge difference to the brands. Because what I've seen is that if you do not do a continuous research, and if you do research at certain points of time, then you miss out the nuances. What the continuous research gives you, the data points. And when you have more data points, you get a nuanced approach. And what I am noticing, Ashutosh, after a point of time, the depth becomes very important. If you want to make a very actionable, explosive change in something, then you don't need a lot of big findings for that. What you need is very nuanced findings to that, which can create that aha factor and can give you confidence to take action based on that. So from my point of view, you can do research at different points of time and can still, everything is objective related. But if you're studying the brands, if you're studying, you think continuous watch on your brand health and the factors, I think it's really worth it.
Okay. And one more question related to branding before I move to the next segment.
Sure.
We spoke very briefly about artificial intelligence and machine learning. But my question to you is, how is AI/ML changing the entire inputs that are going into branding?
So I think what it has done, Ashutosh, is that it has made the data information live. So a lot of that, for example, with the help of artificial intelligence or with the help of machine learning, whatever happening was earlier in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days, now probably is happening in a day or half a day. So what it has done, the AI and machine learning has commoditized the data.
Okay.
So yeah, so the data is commoditized now. Not that data was earlier a big thing, but now the accuracy of data is important. But data is commoditized, available everywhere. There are so many sources. The news you can find everywhere. What it has done, and a lot of people don't realize it, and people say, I think it has even increased the importance of the human intervention.
Okay.
But now the human intervention is needed of a different scale, that you really need to be very skilled. So what it has done, it has made things efficient, but at the same time, it has improved or increased the importance of expertise, because data, everybody has data. So your differentiation point is more and more expertise, not data.
Fascinating. So Rajeev, I'm now going to move to your YouTube channel.
Yes, sure.
Tell me about your channel and what made you start it.
So Ashutosh, my first job when I started was a TV reporter in India. I was a CNBC reporter in India.
Okay.
And I used to cover stock markets. So I think it just happened. It's a COVID baby, you can say. So it happened during COVID time when, I'm not able to go out. I'm not, and, my mind is, I want to do something productive. And I always want to add something to society, like Ashutosh, you are spending your, precious time, because, you're driven by contribution, right? And same with me. I think I was somewhere driven by contribution, and one day I just started it. So it's pretty new. It's 7 months. So it's basically, my key objective is on education, since I know stocks, and I think it's more on the wealth building, my own journey, where I'm realizing that investment is one part, but then being a good parent, relationships, being a good leader. So I think it's basically reflection of my personality and I'm learning through the channel, I'm teaching through the channel. So it's basically, it's my life on the campus.
Fascinating. And what is the name of the channel?
It's called Building Wealth with Rajeev.
Building Wealth with Rajeev. Okay, thank you. This is for all our viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much.
So watch out for Building Wealth with Rajeev, and hopefully all the wealth you give, you make, remember Rajeev. So my next question to you, as far as your channel is concerned, is that what goes into curating a successful episode?
So Ashutosh, my only, as I said, that I'm pretty new to the channel itself, and I'm learning every day. My only thing is a bigger theme of contribution. So anything which I curate should add value to the other person. So right now I've been interviewing a lot of successful investors and a lot of successful leaders, like as you are doing in India as well, in US. So my thing is basically understanding what somebody who is investing or somebody who wants to become a leader, what they need to know. And, try to get a guest accordingly and, ask those questions, which help them inspire to take action.
Very interesting.
So it's contribution driven, inspiration driven, and wherever, some people call me, they need this help, they need that help, and I help that way as well.
Very nice, very nice. So I'm going to move to the last segment of our conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
All our viewers and listeners love to get to know my guest a little better. So I have a few questions for you personally. My first question to you, Rajeev, is what would you say are 3 key milestones or pivot points in your life or your career?
It's experiences. I think how you look at life, Ashutosh, a lot of people look at by tangible goals, right? That they earn X amount of money. For me, the experiences are very, very important. And, when we talk about segmentation, I will call myself under experience seekers. So I think one of the milestone for me is obviously my experience across the different parts of the world. So I was fortunate to work in India. I was fortunate to work in China for 5.5 years, which was another amazing country.
Sure.
And then been working in Singapore for 15, 20 years, off and on, travel to different countries out there. So I think if I want to pick one key highlight of my life so far, I think it's collecting different experiences, a collage of experiences, and building my life and learnings around that.
Wonderful.
And second thing, I think it's not related to career. I think it would be it would be my children, and it would be friends and families.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So from my next question to you is that, you've had a very, very successful innings so far, and I'm sure there's so much more ahead. But from where you stand today, what does success mean to Rajeev?
It's a very difficult question, Ashutosh. I try to think about it, and success for me means, again, I mean, there is no point of time. I do not know. I think success is how I feel at the moment. That is also success. I think I'm not attached if and but condition. It's a process. So for me, as long as I'm contributing, let's say, anywhere to the society, to my friends, to my parents, to my job, to charity, I think I'm moving towards something which I see successful. So I don't have those exact milestone that, $1 billion or $1 million. It's a journey, and journey has to be done, lived very meaningfully. And, it's every day which counts. So make every day count. I think I'm more, not sure whether I answered your question. I don't have very quantitative.
No, I understand. Yeah. And I have a follow-up question to that. And that is that who or what inspires you?
So Ashutosh, what inspires me is the change agents. People, like people like Steve Jobs, or people like Elon Musk, or people like Narayan Murthy in India, who had the ability to create a change, a positive change for the society, for themselves, for the world. They did not do good for themselves only, but they did well for others. But they created a huge change. They created a huge movement, where thousands and hundreds of people could benefit. So innovation, change, leaders. I think leadership, I'm a big fan of leadership. I think a lot starts with that. So these kind of change agents, these kind of, people who are kind of writing a road of their own, I think they fascinate me a lot.
Very interesting. And my last question to you now, and this is for all the people who will listen to our conversation. What would your advice be to a young manager who's starting off on his or her corporate career?
Yeah, I think my advice, my advice would be stay humble from the day one. I mean, why I'm saying that stay humble is because people come with these gorgeous university degrees and they think they have achieved nirvana. But, degrees are important, but the school of hard knock is more important. So stay humble, learn from everybody, and value relationships. That is what I would say, and be a constant learner. Keep an open mind. Learn, decide, find right mentors, talk to people. But I think at the base is very, very important, which will bring all this together, is that you got to know that that there is so much more the world offers to you. And just stay humble, stay grounded, associate with the right people. Don't compromise on ethics. Don't compromise on relationships. I think these are some of the basic building stone I would have.
Oh, wonderful. Rajeev, on that note, thank you very much. It's been such a privilege speaking to you. Thank you for taking me down your amazing journey of branding. I think I've learned a lot of new things from you today, and I'm sure all our viewers and listeners will get to learn something new from you.
No,
thank
Ashutosh,
you again.
Thank you. You're such an accomplished person. You thought of me. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.